You have joined us for the Disruptive Voices of the Pacific podcast in the middle of our series on sex, dating, relationships and everything in between. We have been talking about the mistakes we've made in dating, talking about why you don't want to date a guy who's addicted to porn. We've talked about what happens when you even mess up. We've talked about sex, and this episode is about what is the purpose of dating. And I have Mr. Daniel Wood with me. Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you for having me, Letitia. This is great to be here.
Some people wouldn't have seen our last episode, but you should go back and watch them. So just tell us a bit about yourself.
Born in Fiji, grew up in Australia, moved back twice. This is our second time back in Fiji, so we came back in 2018. Married to Seriana on Sunday. It'll be our 17th anniversary. But we got engaged about 20 years ago now. And took us a while to put the ring on the finger, but we were both busy doing things in our respective countries. And we got two daughters, Amelia and Addison, 15 and 12.
Good.
Yeah.
So you had about a 3-year dating period. So you've dated.
Yep.
So let's have a talk. We're talking about the purpose of dating. Now, we're not talking about just a one-off coffee with a guy or something, but this is actually when Johnny comes up to Seriana and says, I really like you and would like to get to know you more. So it's become a bit more official. And then what should happen in that, time? What was your intentions when you asked Seriana out?
Wow, we weren't going to talk about this, right? But we ended up talking about it. So I met Seriana, what I guess you could say was coincidence, but I'd look at it as God engineering our meeting. I met her at a family function. She was best friends with my cousin and cousin-in-law, I guess. And then we met, and when I ran into her, she ticked all the boxes. All I knew about her was she was single. She was a medical student at Fiji School of Medicine. So I always wanted an intelligent woman. She was athletic. She played touch football for Fiji. I knew that about her. Why? Because my cousin-in-law told me everything about her before I met her. And but at the same time, my cousin said, "Oh, but she'll never like you. She'll never go for you." And so I took that as a challenge at the time. But anyway, I met her, and I thought she was a beautiful woman. And then I did everything in my power to get close to her that night. So she was washing the dishes, and I went and started drying the dishes. And then we got talking. We just started talking. But I got to say, before all of that, I wasn't even looking for a partner. I was halfway through my PhD and at uni, and so I was completely just doing what I was doing. I wasn't actively looking for a girlfriend or anything like that. And so, as soon as I met her, it kind of like alarm bells went off, and I kind of knew. So I asked her out that night, and I said, "Hey, can we meet up again?" So I was a Christian by that stage, saved, and so we ended up having a date at my parents' house in Suva Point. So she came over for dinner. Can you imagine that? First,
yeah. First time. Happened. You must be old.
Yeah. So came over, and before I asked her on the date, I went and saw her father and said, "Hey, can I take your daughter out?" So I ran into her and saw, so we only met twice, and then I went back to Australia, and then 3 months later I came and I proposed. She said no. And then we started talking quite a lot, but I'd made my intentions clear that I was absolutely smitten with her, and I thought that she was the woman for me. And so I would do whatever it took to kind of let that. I wanted her to be secure in the knowledge that I wanted to be her partner. And so from April through to October, we were just talking on the phone all the time. I didn't see her for a long time. And then I came back in October and proposed again, and she said yes. And then we still didn't get married. That would have been October 2004. We didn't get married until July 2007, so another 3 years later. And during that time, again, getting back to the original question, we just got to know each other. So by that stage, we'd gotten engaged. And so we're spending time with each other's families, getting to know one another, having conversations, going for walks, doing all those kinds of things, going to each other's churches and whatnot. I had relocated from Australia to Fiji, and so my big plan was, hey, I'm going to get an apartment or something like that so I can be ready to receive her once we're married. And so I was on a mission to show her that I was ready to receive her as my wife eventually. So we were doing things like leading youth together and things like that. Yeah, doing a lot of.
So you've almost got a 16-year-old daughter. If she suddenly, if this guy who was 18 came up and he'd graduated last year but had no job, no finances, doing nothing with his life, how would you feel about her?
Yeah, I'd fully have a sit-down conversation with her and find out what is wrong with you right now. No, because we were just having this conversation. We believe Sarah and I got about 2.5 years left with her before she goes off, maybe to Australia and studies or whatever it is. And so we've got a very small window of opportunity to really disciple her into understanding the kind of man that she should want to marry or want to be with. What does that man look like? And I think I told you before that I said to her, and I came out and said, Amelia, I'd like you to marry someone like me, because I think, I'm not perfect, don't get me wrong, but in a lot of ways, I think, I'd be satisfied if she came home with someone that values her, that will want to promote her, that has her best interests at heart, that serves in church, that loves the Lord, that wants to be part of a God-fearing community, that wants the best for her, so that's going to support her and she's going to support him. And so I fully believe that she's not going to bring home a man like that, like the man that you said. I'm believing that she's going to bring home a man that is going to be someone special, because I think she's going to know she's special too. Yeah.
So, most young people, they just, not all of them, but, they just kind of fall in love. They start hanging out, but the relationship's just not really going anywhere. So what would you say to, a couple of 18-year-olds that have started dating but just don't know what to do or where to go? What would you say is the purpose of this time that they have together?
I think in a lot of ways it's preparation for marriage. So what do you have to do as a young man? I'll speak for young men. What do you need to do, like career-wise? How are you going to provide for that person? How are you going to provide security? And we're in a modern day where a woman can earn a job and all those kinds of things. It's very hard for a woman to respect a man that can't provide for them, that can't provide security, financial as well as physical security. And I know we live in a modern world, but I'm telling you, I think women are hardwired in that way to want to respect a man that can provide. So in a lot of ways, that's what I was kind of doing, and I'd like young men to be focusing on themselves, whether it's getting an education, whether it's on an internship or getting a job or finding a way to climb the ladder, be working on themselves emotionally as well. So finding ways to kind of make themselves more resilient, to be able to take on the responsibility of having to lead another person and a household for that matter. And then also growing spiritually. I think that's one massive thing that, especially here in Fiji, that we neglect so much, is that we focus in on providing financially, and we totally forget that our job as men, and we're meant to be priests within the house. And so having a woman that respects us as that spiritual leader in the household. So guys, we've got to be getting into our word. We've got to be kind of upskilling as much as we can, being that man that a partner wants to follow, So working on yourself. Work on yourself, guys, And not just spiritually, physically as well. Going to the gym, getting healthy, making sure that, you're looking good. You're looking good, you're feeling good. I think a lot of us, we're just very much focused on a lot of other things, getting a good career. And then we neglect our health, and then we get, a lot of us are carrying a bit of excess baggage,
Well, once we get the woman or the man, that's where we just let it all.
It's kind of, we got him, we hooked him.
And when she's cooking for me, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Yes, no, that's some great wisdom there from you, Daniel. Just the intentionality with it. How important, we did an episode before on sex and especially the purpose for it in marriage. Yeah. How important during your dating relationship is it to have some boundaries, just, so we don't get lost in it all being about the physical? Yeah,
massively so. And I think the best way in a lot of ways is making sure you guys engage in a lot of group activities. So having, a chaperone, so to speak, but having maybe another couple that goes along with you, making sure you're doing engaging things. I think when you leave the window open or the door open for you to be one-on-one with that person, temptation will come knocking. And so I think none of us are immune to that. But just be aware of that when you're scheduling activities and things like that. Do it within your group, right? And then, hey, when it's time to go home, go home. When it's getting late, 10, 11 o'clock, tomorrow's another day. Again, don't leave yourself open. Set those boundaries early with her and with you. Because if you're anything, say, like me and my wife, you're physically attracted to one another. That's natural, okay? But saying something is natural doesn't give you the right to go and exercise that carnal nature and just say, oh, it's natural. I'm attracted to you, therefore I have to satisfy that sexual urge. No, you've got to exercise self-control, So I think that's probably the best way to do it. Having your friends around, making sure that you're accountable to them. I would have an accountability partner straight away, a more mature man, a married man, or a couple that you're accountable to. Because when we're not accountable, it's we're crazy, we go wild. So I think that's the best thing. Someone that you can be brutally honest with and truthful with. I did this. I thought this. I had this feeling. I wanted to act upon this urge, and they can just say, "Hey, it's natural, but man, let's calm that down. These are the things that you can do." So I'm all in favor of that. The other thing is, I'd be very wary, young man or young woman, of saying, "Oh, we're going to get married, therefore I can violate our covenant before we get married." Yeah. I think that's kind of a cop out, So don't. If it's worth waiting for, it is. You can exercise some self-control.
Yes, so much, especially with just Netflix and what we're watching, the movies and the songs. Quite often you get into a relationship and suddenly you're sucking the face off the other person. And how countercultural, it just doesn't help the relationship to get that engine started straight away, does it? Because you just miss out on all the communication. And what are some other things that you, especially early on while you're trusting each other, what are some other things that you can really focus on?
I think just building your tool bag of how you're going to handle things, right? So there's a lot of conversations that you can have early on. I think a lot of us get into relationships and we don't know how we're going to manage finances. We don't know where we're going to go to church together. That's not such a big thing. No, it's a big thing if you're going to different churches right now. So what about, some of us, you find out some things that are hidden. So maybe they don't know that you drink beer or something like that, which can be a real big deal for a Fijian woman when she finds out, oh, you drink beer or you drink this or something like that. I never thought of it as a big deal coming from Australia. I never used to get drunk or anything like that, but it's like, hey, if you drink, that could be a real red flag. So there's so many things that you can kind of preempt before you get into marriage. That's what the time is better used for, rather than kind of just going for the easiest, the lowest hanging fruit, which is satisfying your sexual urges. That's what we can use dating for. Because it's very easy for us to jump into intimacy and forgetting about commitment. And I think that's where biblical dating and worldly dating differ, is that we put commitment above the intimacy side of things first. And we find that intimacy comes with that commitment, that security that she has in you, that you're not just using them for sexual gratification and then you're just going to put them to the wayside and, hey, yeah, I told you I was getting married, but I already got what I wanted. Now I don't need you anymore. I'm moving on to the next thing. And I think, unfortunately, that's an attitude that's being developed because of our pornography addiction that we've got now, where we just like, hey, we just want that instant gratification. Once we've got it, we're gone. We move on to the next thing. So
how do you, like, after, say you've gone 6 months down the track of intentionally dating, but then you realise, oh, this is not going to work out, which there's no problem with that at all. How do you break up nicely without it being a bloodbath?
I think the hardest thing, if you're going to do that, is if you've said words. So I would suggest staying, I'm not saying being sanitary about everything, but avoid making those massive commitments, like saying, I love you, and that, hey, I want you to marry, be very careful with your words. Choose them wisely. Choose the timing of them well. Make sure that you know what you know before you decide to say it. The other thing is avoid things like kissing, getting into that physical kind of connection, because we talked about this in a previous podcast where it's like you can develop those soul ties, those connections, emotional, physical connections with someone. And then when it's time, like it doesn't work out, but hey, we've already kissed, we've already shared an intimate moment, and then it becomes like just really hard for us to sever that relationship then, and both of you are damaged in a lot of ways. So I think if you can avoid saying things, and then also if you can avoid, breaking those physical boundaries, and that can be done by having people around you all the time, making sure that you're always accountable to others. I think that's a helpful way to kind of counteract that. Yeah. No,
very good. There's so much we could say about that, but I think you've given some great wisdom. Dating's to be intentional. Hopefully you're looking towards some type of long-term commitment and relationship. Just choosing wise boundaries, people around you. Any other last comments? For the young men, I guess I've got a thing for the young men, because I'm in that kind of phase where I really want to have an impact on the young men. Is that you in a lot of ways it's incumbent upon us to make sure you're a man of high worth when you do enter in that relationship. You want to be able to attract a partner that is also of equal high worth, that knows their value. And so I think if I kind of knew my spiritual significance before I got into marriage a lot sooner, I really feel Seriana was a lot further ahead of me when I got into marriage than I think I met the bare minimum criteria when I met her, and she was leaps and bounds ahead of me. For the young man especially, work on yourself, spiritually especially. I think it'll be invaluable skills to have when you do get into a marriage, because she's going to look to you for a lot of answers, and if you can be ready for that, not just providing financially and all those things, but being able to dive into the Bible together, to be able to lead together in church, whether it is whatever you're doing, you'll find a lot more satisfaction in your relationship. So I guess Seriana married you for your drying up the dishes expertise.
She would argue that I only ever did that once in our marriage. I was pretty smart. Figured it out.
Good move. Well, it worked. So whatever it takes, that would get my attention, a man doing the dishes. So well done. But thank you again, Daniel. Great wisdom. Thank you for joining us. And again, please message us if you've got any further questions, like to get in contact. But we're about seeing a generation of young people come through this nation with some healthy tools. Let's not follow the world's way or Netflix or what they're saying, but let's follow God's way. See you later.
Awesome.